Help is on the way. There's a new grant for lower to middle income workers and self-employed persons financially affected by the pandemic. Making a final visit to Robinson's flagship store, shoppers snap up all remaining odds and ends and even fixtures. Counting down to Phase 3, we speak to the Association of SMEs about what they're most looking forward to when it starts. Welcome to The Big Story, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. I'm Olivia Quay. You can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode. Lower and middle income workers affected by the COVID-19 pandemic will get more help under a new grant. The COVID-19 Recovery Grant is for those who continue to suffer significant job or income losses despite the government's earlier measures to help them. People can apply for the grant from January 18th through to the end of 2021. Now, two groups of people can get up to $700 a month for 3 months. Those who are unemployed due to retrenchment or involuntary contract termination, or those who have been placed on involuntary no-pay leave for at least 3 straight months. Meanwhile, other groups can get up to $500 a month also for 3 months. They are employees who are facing salary losses of at least 50% on average for at least 3 consecutive months, or self-employed people facing an average loss in net trade income of at least 50% for at least 3 straight months before January 23rd this year, when the first COVID-19 case was found in Singapore. Now, to qualify for the grant, applicants need to show proof that they have been searching for jobs or seeking to upgrade their skills. Those self-employed may also submit supporting evidence of 2 attempts to reach out to clients or businesses in the 2 months before applying. Well, political correspondent Linette Lai is here to share more. So, Linette, why is this grant separate from the COVID-19 support grant and the other one, the self-employed person income relief scheme?
So these 2 schemes that you mentioned are ending soon. The applications for the COVID-19 support grant end December this year, while the self-employed person income relief scheme, the payouts cover until end December. So basically what we have is these 2 schemes are coming to an end, and the new grant is replacing it in a way. But I say in a way only because the eligibility criteria is different. It's a bit stricter and it's a bit more targeted at the lower and middle income group.
I see. So is that also the reason why these 2 grants, the COVID-19 support grant and SERS, are not being extended?
Yes, I believe so. So when these grants were first launched, when the pandemic first started, many people needed extra help, people losing their jobs or their incomes were reduced quite significantly. So these 2 schemes were rather more broad-based to give people the help that they needed quite quickly. For example, the support grant actually was already extended once. Applications were supposed to close in September, but they got extended until December. So I think this decision to launch a new scheme rather than extend it is a recognition of the fact that circumstances on the ground have changed. Probably people who lost their jobs have become employed, hopefully, since then. People who have had a reduction in income, hopefully they've managed to get it back up again. But at the same time, there's a group of people whose earnings haven't recovered, and this very specific group is who the new scheme is meant to help.
I see. Then, Linette, do you believe that this is the last of such schemes, with Phase 3 scheduled to start in less than 2 weeks?
Well, I would hope so, since the applications for this new recovery grant are open until the end of next year. Hopefully by then, the economy will be back on track and we won't need any more further support. But I wouldn't be surprised if along the way we find out that certain groups still need even more help, and perhaps smaller, very targeted schemes might be launched to help them, not necessarily grants, but other types of support.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Linette. That was political correspondent for the Straits Times, Linette Lai. If you're watching us on YouTube, there's a link below to Linette's piece on the COVID-19 recovery grant. Meanwhile, drivers of taxis and private hire cars will get higher payouts from next year under another new relief scheme. The COVID-19 Driver Relief Fund will see eligible drivers get $600 per vehicle every month between January and March 2021. This will then be reduced to $450 a month between April and June. The Land Transport Authority said that the new fund will cost $133 million. Now, it replaces the Special Relief Fund, through which point-to-point drivers have been receiving payouts since February. 12 new COVID-19 cases confirmed today, all imported. The new cases were placed on stay-home notice on arrival in Singapore, and the Health Ministry will share more details tonight. Well, one of yesterday's 16 cases was a Russian MMA fighter who's here for the One Championship bout on Friday. He had tested positive for COVID-19 when he arrived on Monday after getting a negative result before he left for Singapore. He's undergoing treatment at a hospital, and a cornerman who was on the same flight and had prior interaction with the athlete is serving quarantine in a dedicated facility. Now, Friday's One Championship event will go ahead as planned. Sports correspondent Zali Abdul Aziz has more.
Yeah, well, the Singapore Tourism Board and One Championship announced earlier today that a Russian mixed martial arts fighter on the collision course event, which is scheduled for Friday night, tested positive for COVID-19 upon arrival in Singapore on Monday, and he has been placed in isolation. He tested negative in St. Petersburg before flying to Singapore. The authorities did not name the athlete, but I understand he was due to feature on the Collision Course 2 card, which is pre-taped on the same day as Collision Course on Friday and broadcast at a later date. This is the third One Championship event in 4 that they have done since returning to staging shows in October, where a fighter or cornerman has tested positive. And I think while some people may have concerns over the regularity of this happening, I actually think, on the contrary, that it's a good sign. They show that the safety protocols Singapore has put in place are working. After all, this is precisely the reason these pilot projects are for, to test the robustness of protocols so that larger scale events can safely resume in Singapore as we enter a new phase and a new way of doing things in the future. So the fact that there have been no local infections stemming from any of the events is testament to how well the authorities have managed it.
Moving on to other local news, an emotional day for some shoppers this afternoon as Robinsons rolled down its shutters for the last time at its flagship outlet. The Huron store on Orchard Road was open from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on its last day, with discounts of up to 99% on its remaining stock. Hangers, mannequins and armchairs also up for grabs as customers showed up to bid farewell to the iconic retail institution. Now, Robinson's last store at Raffles City will stay open for now with no date set for its closure. Singpass users can now verify their identity in 2 new ways. First, by scanning their faces, which will be checked instantly against the National Biometric Database. The second method is sending a one-time password to another trusted user via SMS. The other user can then assist the original user in completing their transactions. A Singapore-registered commercial oil tanker was attacked by an explosive-laden boat on Monday. Our Foreign Affairs Ministry said the ship BW Rhine, anchored at the Saudi port of Jeddah, was damaged in the early hours of Monday. It's unclear who was behind the attack, and there are no other details about the explosive-laden boat at this point. The attack resulted in hull damage and a small fire, but none of the oil tanker's 22 crew members were injured. The Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore is investigating the incident with the Saudi authorities. Now, the impending start of Phase 3 is welcome news for most, if not all of us. Those in retail, F&B and the tourism sectors are hopeful of a boost to sales or footfall by 10 to 20% as we see gatherings of up to 8 people allowed come December 28th, as well as a capacity increase in attractions and malls as well. Well, let's find out more about Phase 3's possible impact on the SMEs. President of the Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, Kurt Wee, joins me now. Hi, Kurt. As Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong said in his address 2 days ago, Phase 3 means that Singapore will end the year with some good news. But what are the range of reactions that you're hearing from your association members?
I think businesses welcome it as a positive signal. The increase from 5 headcount to 8, and then capacity to 65%. It's all very, very good signal for an increase of capacity so that restaurants, retailers, and F&B operations can do more. And I think it comes in a very timely period where we're going to have the New Year celebrations as well as the extended holidays. But just to remind everyone that, safe distancing and health and safety measures are still very, very important. We don't want to go 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, as we can see in some countries they've got new waves.
Yeah.
So it's very important that I think as we have the slight loosening in phase 3, and everyone would still keep up on the health and safety, social distancing rules and regulations.
Well, I'm glad to hear that your members are feeling positively about this news. Are they even more optimistic about the rolling out of vaccines next year? Because that's obviously a game changer.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say there is optimism, but I think it's a more positive signal towards the right direction and the right trajectory. I don't think this is going to make up huge losses that businesses suffered during the circuit breaker period and the onslaught of the last 8-9 months. So businesses have a mild optimism towards a level of plateau and mild recovery, but I wouldn't say that it is a great optimism or anything like that, because you still have the substantial part of the customer segments, which are the tourists, the foreign traffic that comes in and out of Singapore, that is still not happening at this point in time. And my suspicion is that it won't gain momentum until probably the second or third quarter next year in those areas.
Well, your association's vice president already noted that the changes announced have been incremental, but of course, they still make a difference. So what type of businesses would stand to gain the most from phase 3 of reopening?
I think if you look at the frontline service businesses, especially the restaurants, F&B, catering companies, even companies that provide services to groups, they can now do an expanded from 5 to 8. That's an increase of about 60% from 5 to 8. Although as compared to, and even if you compare to previous pre-COVID days in restaurants or in F&B operations, 8 is pretty good number to set as the upper limit, and that gives even a family of 5, 6, 7 ability to go out and have meal together, and people can have a good sized meetings together. So that's good news for some of the frontline service organizations. But I think for the nightlife industry and some of these entertainment nightlife outlets, it's probably still some months away. The government have announced the willingness to do some pilot projects there, and we hope that over the next 3-4 months, these pilot projects can be expanded to include the industry as a whole in. But we are very cautious with how things are moving, because it's really more important to move with caution and care rather than to try and rush and then end up 2 steps back when you take 3 steps forward.
Good point. Well, what are the next steps for SMEs as they prepare for phase 3? For instance, I assume some of them may have let go of staff. Are they looking to rehire people again?
I think the next steps, a lot of SMEs have actually utilized digital platforms for some of their communications, their meetings, their work process. If those that haven't, they should really do so. I think the next step is really for SMEs to start thinking about new ways of generating revenues, because some of the old business models may not work like before, and the market may respond differently. The market is more responsive digitally and more responsive from a distance at this point in time. So how do you generate new revenues with your old base of productive services or products or machines? And I think that's what businesses really have to think about. The other thing that we like businesses to consider in the medium term and towards the longer term is really the impact of some of the foreign markets because of the RCEP agreement that Singapore has signed, and think about where as countries open up, how are you going to then be able to latch on to the international trade bandwagon as quickly as possible. So those are some of the things that are quite essential for businesses to start preparing, to prepare for recovery, to prepare for gradual reopening between countries. That's going to be really, really important. I think businesses may start hiring only after economic momentum picks up, and I don't see that happening until second or third quarter next year.
Okay, well, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me, Kurt. I've been speaking to Kurt Wee, who's president of the Association of Small and Medium Enterprises. Looking overseas, South Korea reported 1,078 new COVID-19 cases as of midnight on Tuesday, the highest since the start of the pandemic. Prime Minister Chung Se-kyon said that the country's top priority is securing more hospital beds to handle the record surge. Officials said there were only 3 critical care beds left in the Greater Seoul area, which has a population of nearly 26 million. Meanwhile, London has moved into the highest level of restrictions. The move into Tier 3 means theatres, pubs and restaurants will have to shut, and people can't socialise with anyone not from their household or support bubble. However, essential shops, hairdressers and schools can stay open. People can also meet in groups of up to 6 in public places. The sharp rise in cases has put pressure on the government to review its Christmas plans, which include a 5-day relaxation to allow free travel and for up to 3 households to meet. Gmail has suffered an outage for a second day in a row. This comes after Google services, including YouTube and Gmail, suffered major global outages on Monday. Google said the service had been restored for some users in New York on Tuesday evening, and it expected the email system to be back to normal for all users in the, quote, near future. More than 17,000 people have reported Gmail issues to Down Detector, a website that compiles user-reported network errors. Well, back home, with the first shipment of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine expected to arrive by the end of the month, the Straits Times has a webinar tomorrow on everything you need to know about the vaccine. Find out how safe and effective these vaccines are, whether they're suitable for everyone, and who will likely get them first. Join senior health correspondent Salma Khalek and the panel of experts tomorrow afternoon at 12:30 p.m. on the Straits Times' Facebook, YouTube and Twitter platforms. You can also visit straitstimes.com for more news and videos, and subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below. I'm Olivia Quay. Haryanto is back tomorrow, so we'll see you then.